Man, what are Yoshiki and Kokuro thinking, bro? Literally trying to camp this dude. Trying to camp Shen Wulong. Of course, they're not hiding. They're right in front of less than a minute into the actual match. I didn't think we would see eliminations this early, but here we are. Because everyone knows how this is gonna probably go, right? They're gonna get eliminated early. They're trying to speedrun their failure, it seems. But yeah, the fight has actually started. This chapter was still a bit more setup, but luckily in this case, because the pacing for this arc is a lot slower, and so I also expect certain fights to also be somewhat dragged out. Like we have 12 hours. That's an extremely long amount of time. A lot's gonna happen, and so we're probably not gonna get like basically the real champions tournament type of pacing, where it was just like bam 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 bam. But yeah, we start off at the beginning of the chapter, which is called 64th. This is actually the number of the last person that enters, and we'll see who that is. Pretty obvious really if you think about it. But the chapter starts off, we're at the gate to the actual battle royale with Nogi giving the final rundown of what's going to be happening here. There's a special gate to enter in through, and if they took a look at their actual wrist devices or monitoring devices, they can tell everyone who is actually in the actual tournament or in the actual battle. And that means they'll roughly have an idea of how many people are left, assuming of course they aren't people that are unmarked, that are still in the battle, but they won't know who's who specific. Another thing to remember is that once they pass through the gate that Nogi is in front of, they will literally be participating in the match. And so we see Cosmo sort of showing Ryuki that he has his little monitoring device on his ankle, mainly because he grapples most of the time, so he wants to make sure that it's less likely that someone can attack the device or make it less easy to do that. I do think Cosmo is kind of in a disadvantage when it comes to this, because if he is gonna grapple someone, there might be a chance that they might actually get to the device and disqualify. But it is what it is. Ryuki, who he's talking to, is gonna wear it on his wrist. Same with Koga. And we see Sopang, Okubo, they're getting psyched up. Sekabayashi's also talking about how they got a pretty good lineup for this battle. You know, it's gonna be a very intense one, or a once in a lifetime type of fight, because the Kengan Association has actually never had a battle like this. However, we do see Mutemba, and Mutemba manages to sense the Worm and Shen Wulong coming, and he says they are here as they come walking together as their little group. So they're done with the briefing they had and are making it to gate. We see of course all the members there, so Yan, Fuzan, the real Nicholas, Chopstick, Johnny, and Dodo. What's interesting is that we don't see Chopstick Johnny's face like at all here, but we do see a little bit of Dodo's, and Dodo's definitely looks like a consecutor, which is making me rethink if Chopstick Johnny is a consecutor. But I'm gonna say he's more likely a consecutor, because who on God's green earth would have a name that stupid? But yeah, we even see the mystery characters, so 1 through 9, and then we see the man himself begins to speak. Shen Wulong. He's excited that everyone is here, and he's actually looking forward to the match. He's like, yeah, this is gonna be a good one. And at this point, most people who haven't seen Shen Wulong before are going to have the natural reaction you have to Shen Wulong if you kinda know what's up. Like, we even have the narrator there saying the enormity of the connector sort of sent shivers down the spine of the other fighters. Now, I would say it's mostly because they know who he is, because he was literally among them the entire time, bro. Like, unless you see the connector actually in action, or he lets his aura leak out, right? You're not gonna know any better. Of course, the only person who isn't flustered about this is Oma, Togita Oma. And he's like, yeah, Shen Wulong took you long enough. He's ready to throw hands with him now. Almost like you're cutting it close to the wire, so he's expecting the connector to go in or join in with them, it seems. But Shen Wulong's like, nah, not really. They were actually in a separate location getting their little briefing before coming over here, so it's not really late, which is what Oma was seemingly implying when he said he was cutting it down to the wire. Then we see Gilbert, who is eyeing Kure Ryan, obviously. Gilbert probably doesn't care much about anything else. It is very interesting to see how much he prioritizes killing Ryan and actually winning the tournament with Shen Wulong. We do know he looks up to the connector, and because of that, I don't know if he will actually be so trigger happy with trying to kill Kure Ryan, but at the same time, will he actually try to let him live if he bits him down? I doubt it. So it'll be interesting to see how this happens. And Nogi starts the random picking of the order in which people will enter through the gate. Shen Wulong, however, has a suggestion to this. But just before I actually say what Shen Wulong's suggestion is, they are basically 64 participants here, and the way that they'll be getting in after they've determined their order is that they'll be going in 1 minute after one another. So it will take around an hour, 5 minutes for everyone to get in, and then the actual match starts. Of course, to determine their order, they'll be drawing lots, but Shen Wulong's suggestion is like, actually, he wants to enter last. Now this gives Shen Wulong a huge disadvantage, but Shen Wulong wants to feel cool, he wants to feel like a headliner, and he's willing to go so far as the actual coin, the win condition of this battle, can be given to the other team, the Kengan Association. And of course Yan is pissed by it. He's like, you can't just decide that. Nogi's like, alright, sure, we'll just go with that since you want to do that. Because Nogi has no real qualms with that, because going in last will mean you could get ambushed, technically speaking. Other fighters might actually have prep time. There's a lot going on here. Rito's like, someone is confident, talking about Shen Wulong. He's so confident this, he's willing to go last. He's even willing to give the opposing team an advantage. Ryuki is like, no, he's actually doing this because he wants to have more fun in this fight. At the end of the day, this is a game to him. You know, there are levels to this. While Ryuki and Oma are fighting to save their lives, Shen Wulong is playing a game. And while Ryuki's saying this, we see Yan sort of yelling at Shen Wulong, saying, bro, you need to talk to me first. Of course, so he can filter every bad idea that Shen Wulong has. But yeah, we have another, quick interaction between Nicholas and Jean, the fake Nick. And the way he actually greets Jean is very interesting, because Jean comes up to Nicholas and is like, so you really are alive? And Nicholas responds with, Jean, isn't the sunset beautiful? Or isn't this a beautiful sunset? This is actually a similar thing he said to Jean once he had killed the rest of the French army. But the moon was out in that time. And he actually said, isn't this a beautiful moon? So Nicholas remembers what happens here, and it makes me think, like, the way that he's thought deeply about this, about what he had done, it does make this a very interesting angle, because Jean and Nicholas were friends, and I think it's not a coincidence that Jean ended up out or surviving his clash with Nicholas, even though Nicholas is literally stronger. Like, it's literally even said in Jean's character bio when he was masquerading as Nicholas. Of course, going back to the actual chapter, Nicholas is like, oh, so you actually go by Nicholas now, it seems. So he thinks that's pretty funny that he's masquerading as him. Jean is like, listen, you better not run, bro. I'm coming for you, Nicholas, he ain't having none of that. He's running from him. He's actually saying, catch me if you actually can do it. And with that, we see everyone draw lots. We don't see everyone's order exactly, but we do know Hatsumi literally starts this out. So Hatsumi goes in, and he's already scheming about what the best thing to do with his 1 minute advantage over everyone else because it's gonna be an hour advantage to Shen Wulong. But then we cut over to Yan, who is 20 seconds. So we've already skipped like 22 or 20 other fighters at this point. But Shen Wulong's like, bro, don't wait at the gate for me. I want to fight alone. Now you might think Yan just wants to do that, you know, as a precaution. As always, Yan is the connector nanny. However, there are two other people at the gate, and that is Kokuro and Yoshiki. They are waiting, basically spawn camping Shen Wulong by the gate, waiting there menacingly. And Yan walks past them. Of course, he doesn't try to take them out. He goes on because he's probably not worried that Shen Wulong's gonna go down to these guys anyway. We then cut to Oma, who is 63, so we made another cut again with Oma revealing that he's the one who has the coin. Mainly because he's like, yeah, you could probably see who has the coin by now, because now there's only like 3 people there, including Oma. So if Shen Wulong even looks at his device, he can already tell who has the coin. So Oma just reveals it. He has the coin. Come and find me, boy. He even says he's not gonna lose, and yeah, that's basically him going through. And it becomes Shen Wulong's turn, and Shen Wulong finally goes in, and he is seemingly the 64th, which is very interesting. But yeah, that is the actual name of the chapter, and yeah, the battle has officially begun. And Kokuro and Yoshiki, they've already spawn camped him. Shen Wulong is like, so you guys are actually my first opponent, so we're practically guaranteed to know what's gonna happen here, right? I doubt we'll even see this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if they just get off screen, we just see they got eliminated and that's it. But yeah, that is the review and breakdown. Don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.